What does filmed for IMAX mean? It isn't just a movie that'll look great on IMAX's screens. It means that hiding from a sandstorm feels like fear in every flicker. And every triumph is felt in every sound wave. And the things we've only imagined, you can truly experience those too. That's what filmed for IMAX means. Get tickets to experience Dune Part 2 now and IMAX's exclusive expanded aspect ratio.
You've been lost in the woods for hours now, stumbling around in the dark. You come around the bend and see two people roasting marshmallows over a roaring fire. They see you coming into the clearing and gesture over to pull up a log. Welcome to Campfire Ashes. I'm Paul.
And I'm Jess. Join us as we tell each other our originally written spooky stories around the campfire and then dive into the lore and legends that inspired them. Is it something that goes bump in the night? Is it something menacing lurking past the tree line? Or is it just weird and otherworldly? You'll find it here on Campfire Ashes.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, or right here on the Geekscape Network.
And welcome to another episode of Horror Movie Night. St. Patrick's Day is just around the corner, so why not talk about a film that's celebrating 30 years? Leprechaun 2, to go with last year's St. Patrick's Day when we celebrated 30 years of Leprechaun 1. What a turnaround for this franchise. And we've got a great guest with us today. He directed at least 2 documentaries that I've seen and adored. He has another one on the horizon that I can't wait for. And he's here to talk about an Indiegogo campaign he's got for yet another public domain gone evil film that he's working on. But this one seems a little bit more tongue-in-cheek and a little less mean than, say, a Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Taylor Morden, thank you so much for joining us here at Horror Movie Night.
Thank you for having me. What a fun intro. Do we do tiny claps on this podcast?
For now. No. You can't clap for yourself. That's the only rule we have.
Yeah, you can give tiny claps when we say something funny to let us know that we did a good job. So this was kind of assigned to you, so I don't know if there's an apology here or not, but I'll tell you that as someone who's watched a lot of Leprechaun movies, I still think this is probably the best or second best one. Because it's not a great franchise, all in all.
I can tell you it's the best one I've seen.
Is it the only one you've seen?
It is.
Well, how did you understand any of what was going on?
my first note, I took notes watching this last night. My first note is,
good boy.
I think I've missed so much in Leprechaun 1. I have no idea. And then they slowly explain the lore, but like, if you just go into it cold,
he's a killer leprechaun. That's all the lore that they have.
Leprechaun 1 wouldn't have helped you because this fucking franchise changes the lore of the Leprechaun every movie. Every single movie, it's a new thing. The first movie, it's all about him trying to get his lucky charm that he has and one gold coin. That one plus to seeing the first one, Francis from Pee Wee Herman is your hero in that movie.
Well, that's fun.
Well, this was my problem with the last time that we had talked about it. And I was hoping that maybe there was a little bit of connection, but you're right. They just totally changed the lore, which is fine, because this lore I had more fun with. I had more fun with, it's his birthday every 1,000 years, which doesn't make any... It's like dog years, leprechaun years.
It's
leap year. And bro, guess what this year is? It's fucking leap year. It's a leap year. But then he spoils his own... Well, I guess we should maybe for the uninitiated, as Scott would say. Basically, the leprechaun is going to take his bride, finally, after 1,000 years. It's St. Patrick's Day, which is the leprechaun's birthday, but it's in 1,000-year increments, and he's going to get his bride because she's going to sneeze 3 times, and nobody's going to say bless you, but if somebody says God bless you, then the marriage is ruined, and he brings... He brings his slave along for the ride, because he's a
who
charmer,
has the most realistic beard I've ever seen on an actor in my
Man, that beard is good.
yeah. For 1,000 years ago, beard.
When I was a child, my favorite costume that I did for Halloween was a pirate, and my beard looked just like that. I was 7.
it's just a Sharpie dabbed across your face a couple times.
Yes. And the second thing I gotta say is that the best band name for such a fucking mediocre band was this band, and I hope to God they don't listen to this podcast. They were called 7 Year Dungeon Beard, which is the sickest metal band name. Actually, we were playing with Black Dahlia Murder one time. Both our bands were playing with Black Dahlia in Cleveland, and Trevor Strand, the now deceased singer of the band, was like, "Yo, did you guys see 7 Year Dungeon Beard play earlier? Man, that's the best band name I never thought of." And so it's this is like 1,000 Year Dungeon Beard for this guy. But no, I actually think that the quote unquote enslaved man. So I'm gonna guess that the idea is that he's a shitbag too, and that he got caught up in the machinations of the
leprechaun.
Exactly, of the leprechaun. I'm guessing that he's a shithead anyway, because he's like, all he cares about is himself. He's like, I just need to be free of this curse. I think that he's just kind of like a familiar. So in the past of Leprechaun 2, I'm guessing he's more like a witch.
So
it doesn't make any sense, but I'm just trying to make sense.
No, I like it. I like it more than I thought, which was just a dude.
Here's something that's worth mentioning, by the way, because this is something that I couldn't stop thinking about last night while watching the movie. There are, I think, 8 or 9 Leprechaun movies. None of them are the same Leprechaun from the previous movie. Apparently, just the race of Leprechaun all looks like Warwick Davis.
Wait, they have different names in every single one of them? Or
I'm pretty sure. Like, there's no consistency to be found. It's not like Jason Voorhees coming back from the dead every single time. It's like if there were 9 Jason Voorhees.
Oh, no. Hey, Matt,
race
just got to tell you, I'm going down the list. So, Lubdan the Leprechaun is from the original 1993 film. Okay. Now let's go to... So we know that Lubdan the Leprechaun is Leprechaun 2. Let's go to Leprechaun 3. Now, there has to be like a whole thing of like all the sequels. Leprechaun film series. Here we go. Man, Wikipedia is going to get my money this time, finally.
Leprechaun You're going to donate 3. That $2.
Yeah, man.
Please, we're dying.
We're dying
and we need you.
Nope, Lubdan the Leprechaun in 3. Leprechaun 4
Listen, they can give him as many names as they want, but every single movie has a completely different backstory. So maybe maybe it's multiverse.
Oh,
Leprechaun
the
stories.
multiverse. And I'm so shocked that we're like 9 minutes into this recording, and we haven't made any shitty Irish accents for anything so far.
Look, I'm trying to be respectful to our Irish listeners for once.
Guys, I got a little something. If you subscribe to our Patreon, you can see I have a shot glass filled with what looks like whiskey, but it's actually just flat ginger ale, because that's literally what they put in the whiskey bottles in this movie. They didn't even go with the flat Coke. They went with the iced tea that they do in Mad Men. They just went with the flat ginger ale. So
it was truly
Erin
the
Go
worst
bragh.
Irish whiskey.
But then also,
I saw something
since it's
green
Leprechaun
over
2,
Oh, yeah.
I have 2 drinks. And this is
Amazing.
St. Fatty's Irish Red from Fatheads up in Cleveland.
I also have an Irish Red from Berkshire. I was wondering if we were going to both have a Guinness, but last time I think you had a Guinness and you didn't want it. But Taylor had something green. I saw.
I think it's a Mountain Dew, isn't it?
Yeah. Am I doing this wrong? I had a Baja Blast Mountain Dew.
No, that's absolutely correct.
It's a Shamrock Shake Baja Blast Mountain Dew. Yes. I mean, it's close enough.
It's exactly as Irish as Warwick Davis's accent.
Yes.
In this movie.
And once again, I'm drinking chicken broth from a Your Jawsome cup. So,
okay,
Matt really
Taylor,
did
if you thought you lost, Matt really lost this one. You're a little bit closer.
He did not understand the assignment.
For somebody who spent so much time in video stores, I can't believe this is your first Leprechaun movie. That just feels like...
I'm almost positive I saw the first or the third one at midnight on Cinemax in 19...
It was probably the third one, because there were boobies in that one. So that would be Cinemax for you. Yep.
Which we
were
did
there
not
like
get
the
in the
boobies
first one.
in this one? Completely a different actress than
Yes.
My favorite thing is that in the IMDb trivia, it said like, there's a rumor that so-and-so used a body double. I'm like, what rumor? She's not shown in the same shot.
Siobhan Durkin?
Who her role was almost given to the following people. First, it was written for Jennifer Aniston to come back from the first movie.
God.
There was a point where this was supposed to be a continuation, but she was busy with some little sitcom.
Yeah. no shot she was coming back.
Then they offered it to both Heather Langenkamp, who I think just was she was
wasn't
filming
doing horror at this point, right?
She was filming New Nightmare. She was too busy filming New Nightmare. And my favorite one was Denise Richards turned it down because she was filming Tammy and the T-Rex.
Which, dude, Siobhan is in Tammy and the T-Rex. Which is, I don't even know how she could say, how is Denise Richards going to say no?
I think she had a little bit more screen time than Siobhan did in Tammy and the T-Rex.
I bet you at the years that this came out, though, she was probably like, man, I should have taken Leprechaun 2. Like, there's probably this, in the moment, she was probably like, fuck.
Yeah. The residuals for Tammy are probably way better now.
Well, by Leprechaun 3, this bombed so hard that this was the second and last theatrical release for a Leprechaun movie. It's been straight to DVD from this point on. Let's jump forward 1,000 years. And, hey, it's Clint Howard. And one of the biggest names in the movie.
Clint Howard. And what? Oh, wait. His girlfriend is Kimmy Robertson.
Yeah. Also awesome. That was the best text on screen time jump I've ever seen. It's like 1,000 years later.
You're like, what? Like, 1,000 years later. After that credit sequence where they're just going through illustrated women. And I'm like, how is he keeping tabs on this? I know he's magical, but
he had 1,000 years to keep track.
Yeah. So I also read this factoid on like 3 different things, which is insane to me. Did any of you read what the UK title for this movie is? Because it wasn't released as Leprechaun 2. Seems like what it should have been released as. It was released as One Wedding and a Lot of Funerals, which is...
That can't be true.
Matt, where did you read that?
That was on
IMDb?
Wikipedia and IMDb and a Google search.
Okay.
I need to find a poster of that. Like,
I'm actually really impressed that you went through the rigmarole. That's Kyle's word of the week.
That's the word for today.
Yeah.
Well, there's not even that many.
Yeah.
No.
There's 5 deaths. There's 5 deaths, and one of them is 1,000 years ago.
It's like literally the same ratio as 4 weddings and a funeral.
They should have just said 1 wedding and 4 funerals.
Right. Yeah, that would have made. Well, I guess they didn't want to spoil how many deaths were in the movie.
Not like anybody was going to be keeping count back in 1994.
But I spoke out of turn because I said that Clint Howard was the biggest name in this movie, completely forgetting that a pre-Mad TV Michael McDonald shows up as the barista.
Such a wild scene.
I did a little bit of research on this because I was like, is this his first role? And I started looking into it. Did you know that Michael McDonald joined the Groundlings in 1992, and he was a Groundling from 92 to 97, and during that time, to make money, he wrote and directed films for Roger Corman, and that's why he's in, like, Carnosaur 2 and 3, and, like, he wrote and directed the Bucket of Blood remake from the 90s.
Oh, my God.
But, yeah, I was like, I had no clue.
No clue.
Because now he directs a lot of, like, sitcom television, but he's another one of the many directors working today that you can say got his start because of good old Roger Corman. But his death is, if not for another death in this movie, he has the most gnarly death. That him getting burned by all that steam is like an uncomfortable thing to watch.
Yeah.
It was such a fun, like, I feel like hip coffee shops and espresso was a new thing early 90s. They're like, who's spending all this money on coffee, these assholes?
Yeah.
And then they're like, what if they got their comeuppance with hot steam to the face?
Yeah.
Listen,
I worked in a coffee shop after college, and those things are no joke.
Yeah.
There was a girl that I worked with who got 3rd-degree burns on her hand from one and had to go to the hospital and get she was like a mini cast for a month.
Dear God. Yeah, I feel like the 90s with like coffee shops was very similar to like the late 80s with sushi, where it was just like, what the hell is this?
This is weird.
Like this newfangled thing that's been around for thousands of years in other cultures.
Yeah.
Let's
come
up.
Jennifer Aniston wasn't in it again. Central Perk would have been really fucked.
She's not that
but
great of a waitress anyway.
let's focus on back to the actual frame of the movie. I think that Bridget, the character of Bridget, is being a little bit unreasonable to our main character with how upset she is that he won't let his uncle drunk drive a limousine or hearse filled with human beings.
Well, he does say he has one rule, which is, don't kill the paying customers.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I thought there was no refunds.
There was
That
a lot of
his
rules.
His first rule is no
That was the
refunds. The second one
rule.
is yeah.
But
Also, Siobhan Durkin, the girl who plays Bridget, she is HMN royalty because she is the babysitter who gets electrocuted a year earlier in Ghost in the Machine.
man, we've been talking about her a lot lately. All right. Good for her.
We basically went through the vast majority of it.
Is she just the same body double in that one?
She shows her
travel
boobs
together.
to some 12-year-olds, but she doesn't show the audience.
Yeah.
Now, if you haven't watched that movie, that one is one of the ones that we just kind of that bubbled up and shocked all of us. It's fantastic.
It's delightful. And I feel like it has a little bit in common with this movie in the sense of both of them start to dabble in a little bit of a Nightmare on Elm Street type vibe, because when the leprechaun makes the phone cord come to life to keep the main character from saying God bless you, I'm like, this is some Freddy Krueger shit right here. Yeah. And I'm all on board. I'm all in on this.
You never have a problem with that.
I never will you find me complaining. I love that the leprechaun throughout this movie is just he's so gold obsessed that he rips out the one dude's gold tooth. Him tearing off that dude's finger to get the gold ring on his finger. I'm like, this is so good.
Amazing.
It's so fantastic and goofy. But let's talk about the first actual kill out of these 4 kills that we get when the leprechaun's in 1990. Corny ass Ian. When we first meet this character, and he literally says to Bridget, "Oh, you're here. I have a special crash helmet for you." I was like, who's this nerd? Who invited the nerd?
Is that a word for a condom? It means a very special crash helmet.
And then he's just like, "Oh, you're here. I'm going to call out and force someone to come in on their day off so I can show you around my job." He's at his job.
He's at the job. You can probably get away with it if you just keep being at your job.
Yeah. And if that wasn't bad enough, then we get a gentle sprinkling of essay on the car ride home.
But he deserves what he gets then. That's the only way that it's worth killing. I mean, I prefer when I don't feel bad about an asshole getting killed in a horror movie, and this one was pretty satisfying. That's why it's my favorite kill. Plus, it's also hilarious because the boobs, the nipples become the most unrealistic looking lawnmower blades. Have you ever seen lawnmower blades that look like that?
No, dude, that dude's lived in Los Angeles for all his life. Has never mowed a lawn. He's been in that apartment complex forever, and he's never had to mow a lawn. I would like to find that lawnmower. I mean, even the Dead Alive lawnmower was at least a little more like
a human one.
Yeah.
But it is great. I mean, I think that the idea of shooting that in shadow is just chef's kiss. It's one of the few deaths where I'm like, yeah, I want this in my imagination more than physically seeing it, because it's way worse however I'm imagining it than whatever you would show me.
Here's the thing. Imagine this. Imagine them making that scene in 2024. It would make people puke. They would do it so well if they did it with actual practical effects that you'd be like, well, I didn't want to see that. I want to see the 1994 version of it where instead of just seeing Lube Down the Leprechaun, gotta say it, you kind of giggle whoo at the very end when the blood splatters on the wall. I'd also like to have seen the corpse fall to the ground and just be blah, just a mannequin. I don't need to see the actual gore hit, but just that would have been fun. But they probably took all the practical effects people that were going to do this movie, and they did Tammy instead.
Yeah, that's fair.
Him over there.
I want to read 2 quick IMDb trivia factoids at this point, because both of them were confusing to me in different ways. So this one says, the production was temporarily shut down due to a series of bird attacks that greatly disturbed the cast and crew. ornithologists were brought onto location to negotiate the terms with the bird community to cease the attacks.
Yeah,
Once
those are union birds.
This is my favorite sentence. Once a sense of peace was restored, production resumed.
Fuck. Matt, did you cross-reference this one? Because this one is even less believable than the last
this one I did not cross-reference. But then this one I had to laugh at because it said that they made the Leprechaun's outfit darker colors than the first movie to show that this was a darker movie than the cartoonish original. And I feel like this was way more cartoony than that.
He's in a go-kart with a shamrock with like the circle and the bar through it.
Dude, his go-kart's pretty fantastic. So
That
gave me a lot of joy when that came up.
I got the Halloween costume for the kiddo this year. That'd be sick.
We get I still think this cameo is so perfect, is the Tony Cox cameo when he's in the bathroom and he just like the door opens, you hear the sounds of the feet coming, and then it's just Tony Cox standing there, who I found out, again, thank you, IMDb Trivia, was Warwick Davis's stunt double on the first movie.
I think because we talked about that, didn't we?
Maybe. They became friends when they were doing the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi together, so they've continued to keep each other employed
and that
one
was
way or another.
Only 10 years before this movie. Isn't that crazy?
That's
or
crazy.
I guess it was 11 years.
That's insane. That it was 10 years from Return of the Jedi to Leprechaun in Warwick Davis's career, with just a brief stop in Willowhood on the way. And then we get this very weird but kind of perfect Freaks reference.
Yeah, I love that
when
part.
all the little people are cheering on the Leprechaun, yelling "one of us" over and over and over again. I was like, that is... And
great.
And then I realized that I knew the director's name, and suddenly all of this made sense. Because this director then went on to make Idle Hands. And it's
my God.
Dude,
nice.
This dude gets it. He knows how to walk that perfect line of slasher tropes, but super meta, super tongue-in-cheek, lots of fun. It's kind of a bummer because you look at his career, and we've talked about Idle Hands on the show before. Idle Hands just unfortunately coming out so soon after the Columbine shooting kind of just wrecked his career, and he pretty much did television for 15 years until very recently. I think he did a movie or a doc or something to get himself back in there, but Idle Hands definitely put him in some form of director jail.
Did anybody
for a really long time.
clock who his nephew is? Robin Flender's nephew?
No, who's his nephew?
Timothy Chalamet.
Oh, no. Well, that may have helped.
Wow.
Maybe Timothy gave him a helping hand.
Yeah.
He's back now.
Timothy's a Nepo baby. Robin Flender put you on the map.
Quick shout out to some of the TV shows that he did make after Idle Hands kind of wrapped it all up for him. But he did some Tales from the Crypt episodes. He did some Gilmore Girls episodes, some OC episodes, The Office, Ugly Betty, Chicago Hope. And most importantly, he directed the episode The Scare of Dawson's Creek, which is the Scream parody episode of Dawson's Creek. He became really good friends with Conan O'Brien because they were friends from Harvard. They went to Harvard together. He's who directed the Conan O'Brien Can't Stop documentary about what happened to him after he lost The Tonight Show. And that kind of reestablished him as a person that you could hire again after all that time. And Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
Really
I think that this is,
uncle.
This is the lizard people in Hollywood just trying to make a cover up, But it is also quite interesting that we're talking about this director getting his feet wet again with the documentary because
Yeah. Oh, we'll get there.
We're talking with a documentary
because our guest may have did the reverse of that. I do want to say that my favorite kill, the kill that I always think about with this movie, and even watching it now at 38, it is really a tough watch, is Morty. Morty, when he has to get up and open the safe and he's just dragging this stretched up stomach with the, I was like, this I think was the first one I saw. I think it was playing on USA one afternoon and I was watching it and that was one of those images where as a kid I was just and no. And I changed the channel.
That's your Toxic Avenger 2 intro scene for in respect to me. Yeah, I got it. I get you.
It is gnarly. It's the angles of the thing. Oh, just
It's a great practical effect. Like it looks fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be good. It should be. No. It should be awful. And it's
too good for this movie.
Well, because this movie also dabbles with like a really shitty skeleton puppet that is like, of course, my favorite shit. I was so excited.
Amazing. That's my favorite scene though, because okay, so just so the listeners know, I need to be cast in a bad movie, and I realized what my calling in that bad movie is. I need to fight a skeleton. That's the life goal now. Bucket
Taylor,
list.
is there room for someone to fight a skeleton in Vampire?
I mean, there's always room for someone to fight a skeleton. You're gonna have to provide your own skeleton.
Yeah. That's actually an incentive.
But
on the Indiegogo.
Yeah.
But for the
fight your own skeleton.
For the man in the group that has only really seen this one, you really just need this in part 3. The rest of this franchise is a. We've done 4 of these movies now, and I don't think we're doing any more of these movies.
Well, we did the first 4, right? Like we
did the first 4.
We're not going to the hood or to the origins.
I don't think 3 white guys can talk about Leprechaun in the Hood. I think that
after this movie last night, I was very curious and watched some YouTube, like, what is the Leprechaun franchise about? And watched clips from many of the others. And I got to say, In Space and In the Hood look like they're the most fun.
You think?
I didn't
be wrong.
Insane.
Yeah, you'd think that Space was more fun than it is.
It's fucking terrible.
I wouldn't say it's terrible, but it's definitely, once you see that one, you're like, I don't need to go much further.
Well, I just saw the clip where he has a lightsaber or something, and I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah,
on a tiny green Yoda lightsaber. Because they don't care and there are no rules.
I've been mostly unimpressed when horror movies go to space in general.
Was Leprechaun the first to go franchise-wise to go to space?
No, Hellraiser, I think, went to space.
The first to go to the Hood, I think.
Yeah, he was definitely the first to go to the Hood, unless you count Jason Takes Manhattan.
What about Tales from the Hood?
No, but like taking a classic franchise character to the Hood.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Are you really going to call the Leprechaun a classic franchise? You're just shit-talking it, Matt.
Listen, anything that goes past 4 movies, I think, is crossed some level of classic to somebody. Like the Puppet Masters classic.
Matt.
There's 14 of them, I think.
Are there any Puppet Masters in space?
No.
Charlie?
No. Aliens come and fight the Puppet Masters. It's slightly different.
Let's just say yes.
Yeah, tomato.
You've been lost in the woods for hours now, stumbling around in the dark. You come around the bend and see 2 people roasting marshmallows over a roaring fire. They see you coming into the clearing and gesture over to pull up a log. Welcome to Campfire Ashes. I'm Paul.
And I'm Jess. Join us as we tell each other our originally written spooky stories around the campfire and then dive into the lore and legends that inspired them. Is it something that goes bump in the night? Is it something menacing lurking past the tree line? Or is it just weird and otherworldly? You'll find it here on Campfire Ashes.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, or right here on the Geekscape Network.
Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
Now that we've sat through Leprechaun 2, some of us are going to have to save the night. I think I technically am taking the hit as the person who picks this one. So I'm going to take what I think is the best option. I'm going to pick another thing that involves a creature of small stature. It's a part 2 of a franchise. It also has a lovable drunk in it. I'm going with Ghoulies 2.
Nice choice. That is the kind of lateral thinking that we need on this show.
All right. Let's go to our guest real quick. What would, if you were like hosting a drive-in movie night or just a regular movie night at your house, and you had to come up with a double feature to play with Leprechaun 2, anything that fits the vibe or the flow or whatever, what would you pick?
I have no idea. So you sprung this on me like 15
Matt never
minutes ago.
tells the guests. We don't have.
I know.
I was like,
don't say never. We haven't had a guest in like 2 years.
Matt never tells the guests.
I do feel like this movie made me want to watch more Warwick Davis. So
Okay.
I would either go Willow or Return of the Jedi, probably.
All right.
But I'm
Willow
more of
might
a
be
like
fun.
that was, we just watched that, so that was that. Now let's watch a movie.
Yeah, let's go watch an actual movie.
So I guess Willow would be real fun because
Willow, you can watch Willow first, and then be like, and then things terrible happened to Willow, and now he's a leprechaun.
Oh, I like that lore.
Yeah, things just went real bad after that one.
Yeah, all of a sudden he has a slave.
Yeah.
Right after Willow ends, he uses his magic for weird purposes.
Sounds about right.
All right.
Cool.
I'm going to go with, I think, the same thing I did last year, which is Darby O'Gill and Little People, but strictly due to the fact that this one actually is a better fit due to the fact that in Darby O'Gill and the Little People, Darby O'Gill gets King Brian drunk and then puts him in a rabbit sack. So it's basically the same movie.
Feels, yeah. I like the traps here that are happening. I'm going to go with Bride of Chucky, another smaller creature of stature taking a bride, a little bit of Hollywood flair, it feels like, even though it's like maybe not quite Hollywood, but it feels Hollywood sheen. I'm going to go Bride of Chucky. Also, I'm sorry if anybody, my son's decided to drum, so I'm sorry that there's just a drum. Okay,
we couldn't hear it.
Don't
All
worry,
right, fantastic.
We'll cut that out.
Just disregard that altogether.
All right, well, some great double features there. And normally, here's where we do the What's Going On segment of the show. But we obviously have someone who's got an Indiegogo to promote. And you have been on a couple different productions of Matt Kelly podcasts.
Matt Kelly Productions.
Promoting this. And I have to say that on one of the episodes that you did, it was the first time that I actually heard that, and I'm so excited to say this in front of these two. So something that's going to set Vampire apart from, say, this Steamboat Willie movie that's coming out, or this Winnie the Pooh movie coming out, is that it's in Who Framed Roger Rabbit style of live action actors dealing with a 2D hand animated killer deer.
What?
That might be why you need an Indiegogo campaign to get some finishing budget costs on this movie. So how about you tell us about Vampire and your Indiegogo campaign?
Yeah, Vampire is a public domain horror adaptation, as the kids do these days. Except that it was already a script about a killer deer monster, and we're shoehorning that part in. That's not important. Don't worry about that. What's cool about it is, we're obviously operating on a low budget, and we did as many practical effects as we could, but we couldn't quite wrap our heads around how to do animals, like, short of just really bad puppets. And so, it's not a Disney adaptation. It has ties to Disney that are legally not anything to worry about. And so it dawned on us to do animated creatures, but there's friendly animals as well. And there are just a lot of animals in the woods when you're doing a creature feature. And so we started working with an animator, and we shot our horror movie in the woods with a lot of, people acting with a little stuffed animal across from them that is going to be, a bear or a deer or other creature that has yet to be determined. But it's really exciting. I've never done anything like that before, although we did have some mixed media animation in the Ska documentary. Yep. Where people interacted with Ska cartoons, Ska cartoons. I'll show myself out.
Scotches.
Sure. Yeah. So it's gonna be rad. It's a throwback 90s horror movie, loosely based on the book that Bambi is based on. And it's, attractive people go into the woods looking for stuff and find chaos.
Right.
Attractive people, you say?
Well, you have to. It's college kids,
All right. All right.
So if people are listening right now and they want to donate to that Indiegogo campaign, do you have a quick, easy URL for them to use?
vampiremovie.com.
That is easy.
That's too easy. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna donate twice.
Amazing.
That's amazing. That sounds so. It's shot, but the animation and the post stuff is what we're looking
it's
at?
mostly shot. Principal is pretty much done, but we have a few scenes. Obviously, there's pickups. More animation, background plates to film, things like that.
Yeah.
But the bulk of it is shot because you have to do that to get the animation going. So we're still,
Right.
I'd say we're like halfway through making the movie.
Yeah.
But we shot. Our actors are done for the
Yeah.
most part, except
Yeah.
for some voice stuff.
Oh,
And
incredible.
then we've got to edit it. We've got to do color grading. We're going to try to get some 90s music for the soundtrack, stuff like that. But mostly it's animation that's still left to happen. So I've seen most of the movie. I love it, but I'm like, oh, the cartoons are missing. It's weird.
Right. Where are the cartoons at?
And
that's awesome.
I'm kind of curious because I don't think I've actually asked you this yet, but I know you obviously for documentaries like Pick It Up and The Last Blockbuster, and you've got this Lost documentary that's on the horizon. Is this your first feature, or have you done features prior to this?
This is my first narrative feature. I've done a bunch of shorts, like horror shorts and other I like to go to film festivals, and because I'm like a DIY film guy, it's cheaper to make a short than it is to pay to get into. It costs like $300 to go to a film festival, or I can make a film for $300 and get into 10 festivals. And a really weird life hack that's very specific.
You're giving away Kyle's tricks of the trade.
No, unfortunately, I didn't share this with anybody either, but now we're in cahoots. But yes, it's very helpful.
It's a fun pro tip. I mean, the shorts have to be good enough to get into festivals, I guess. Right. That's the only barrier
It's
entry.
the only catch.
Oh, yeah. But this is my first scripted feature. And as you mentioned, I do have another documentary that I'm doing right now about the TV show Lost that is also still on Indiegogo. GettingLostDoc.com will get you there.
Nice. All right. Well, the last chunk of this episode is obviously promoting what we've been reading, listening to, watching that we've really enjoyed that we want to tell other people about. And since this was my pick, I guess I'll start. I read a really cool graphic novel called Where Monsters Lie by Kyle Starks. And it's hard to get into too much because clearly what I have is like just the first half of what will be a much bigger story. But it starts off with a group of I think it's 3 teens running from a house, and they bang on a door of an old lady, and they're like, this guy's had us locked in his basement. He's been torturing us with a bunch of puzzles. Like, call the police right away. And she's like, my neighbor did that? And they said, yeah. And then all of a sudden she shoots them in the face. And you find out that this entire neighborhood is like a safe haven for serial killers. And she's like the little old lady that keeps the peace. But one of those kids escapes and doesn't die and tells the police about it. So the whole graphic novel is like, just imagine like a small town police department descending into a street where like Jason Voorhees, Leatherface, Freddy Krueger, Pinhead, and like Jigsaw all just happen to reside and are like working as one giant team of superhuman killers. Highly recommend it. It was a fun little read. Again, you're the guest. We'll jump over to you next there, Taylor.
Yeah, and again, 15 minutes heads up on this one too. I have not been consuming that much media lately, and the only thing that springs to mind is unfortunate because I'm one of the 10 people that went out and saw Madam Web.
Oh,
Did they give you a popcorn bucket too?
No, but there is one, which is wild because they had to have known, like the production costs on the popcorn bucket vastly exceeded the ticket sales of this film.
Sure.
And I had a lot of fun watching it.
I'm told it's like the Room of superhero movies.
It is like the Room of superhero. By the way, Greg Sestero from The Room in Vampire.
Oh,
nice.
I didn't know. We do have some fun cameos and fun celebrities. Lloyd
Love
Kaufman's
that.
in it.
Uncle Lloydie.
Uncle Lloyd. But yeah, it is like the Room of superhero movies, if you can call it a superhero movie, because there are no superheroes in it. It's wild, and it was an okay time at the theater. I think it wouldn't be as fun at home, so go out and
I can't say too
something.
much. I haven't talked to them about this yet, but Geekscape has a good relationship with the guys who wrote Madam Web, who also happen to write Morbius.
Yes, I know.
But they also
Two for
wrote
two.
they also wrote the Lost in Space movie or TV series for Netflix that was like incredible. And I think you were there. We were talking to them about it, and they were like, "Yeah, working with Netflix and working with Sony are two completely different worlds." And it was basically that Netflix gave them free reign to like travel their deepest desires, and Sony was just nonstop micromanagement from the jump. And it's kind of frustrating because you know that these are the guys who are going to like have trouble getting work
They're gonna take
down
the fall
the
for it.
down the line.
But it's very clear, like if you watch the movie, and I'm loosely using that term, it's very clear that what they're showing in theaters is not what anybody wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
definitely written by.
I do not blame the
committee.
writers for what happened.
Which I think was the case when we talked about Morbius. I think they said there's like 3 lines in that movie that they have recollection of writing. Like they're like whatever we saw in this, because they also wrote the Power Rangers movie with Elizabeth Banks, and that was pretty good. Like,
But it was very cheesy, and it worked. The cheese
Yeah.
was with the flavor, you know.
yeah, and they're like, they're definitely, they've been on Geekscape a lot because they know their comic book shit. So it's like frustrating that they're bringing in people who clearly know the source material and then telling them how to write the script. And it's like, just let them do what you've hired them for, y'all. All right. Well, I might try to see that this weekend out of curiosity before the opportunity to see it in a theater is taken away from me. But I'm making Poor Things my top priority, though. I really want to try to see all the Oscar movies, and that
I love
specifically
that one.
has me really excited.
That one was
so.
great. That's what I should have said.
Well, look, you got a twofer there as well.
Yeah,
so.
you got a twofer. Perfect. How about you, Scott?
I can't really say anything about it because it would be very spoilery. We finished the most recent season of True Detective, Night Country, last night, and people that listen to whatever episode it was where I mentioned that we started watching this season, I didn't watch the first 3 seasons, which is fine because they're not truly interconnected. I fucking loved this. And there are reasons why I think that the hardcore True Detective people really are upset about it. I think because they expect a cop procedural, and this is not a cop procedural. This is existential horror. And I fucking loved it. It was so good. It felt like when I read Annihilation, not when I watched Annihilation the film. Not saying that I don't enjoy Annihilation the film. It's just that the book is way better. It's just they're different beasts, but they're both good. But yeah, Night Country was so good. I'll be the first person to sing its praises. I think that did something different this season than they've done in the last 3 seasons, from what I've gathered and what people are bitching about. And it works for me. I'm not saying that it would work for everybody, and I don't think that it would work for a lot of the people that are deep into True Detective, but I think it was a really cool season.
Right. And Kyle.
I'm just actively watching the new RuPaul's Drag Race season as it comes out, which is something that I think oftentimes my wife and I fall behind, and we're watching 3 episodes on a weekend.
You told me to watch it, and then you told me that it was like 8 episodes in, and I was like, I'm probably not going to watch it.
Yeah, which is
if I have to watch 8 episodes in 1 week to get caught up to like where it's at, I'm like already tapped out.
My algorithm doesn't spoil anything for me anymore. You know what I mean? Like I don't, I'm not like following a bunch of queens or.
Yeah, I don't even know who the contestants are.
Right. So
this is wild for Matt Kelly.
The past couple seasons have been a little disappointing for me. I think it's like you sort of start to see, behind the curtain a little bit, and Rue is just not the best person altogether. So it's once you. So I needed a break. I did. I think I needed a break, and I jumped back into the season, which was a little slow going. They tried to throw a bunch of like wonky, like there's a Netflix The Circle type thing that happens at the first 2 episodes of the show, which is a split premiere, and it's so once you get
over
past
the split premieres, they need to stop that shit.
Fucking night
Drag Race.
Once you get past that stuff, and once you get a little bit into some of the stories. And not fully planted stories, because there's that, but like actually some of like the queens attempting to adjust and pivot themselves and their looks. The stuff that I think I really liked in those late single digits, like early double digit seasons of Drag Race, that feels like it's coming back in some capacity. This most recent episode that I watched, they did the Rusical, which was a fun reimagining of The Sound of Music, and which was fucking crazy. It's great. I really enjoy watching it when I don't see all the seams and, you know, all the shit that they have done to like really, really build it. Once I can look past that or through it or ignore it even, then I enjoy myself. And I've been enjoying most of this season.
Okay, perfect. Well, guys, it was a great St. Patrick's Day here at Horror Movie Night, and we'll be back next week. Past our St. Paddy's Day, we'll come back stronger and better than ever. But before you leave, make sure that you go over to vampiremovie.com, make some donations. I know that I want to see this 2D animation meets live action actor horror in the woods film just as much as any of you. So let's get those donations rolling in. Donate while the campaign is running, and we'll be back next week with more Horror Movie Night.
You've been lost in the woods for hours now, stumbling around in the dark. You come around the bend and see two people roasting marshmallows over a roaring fire. They see you coming into the clearing and gesture over to pull up a log. Welcome to Campfire Ashes. I'm Paul.
And I'm Jess. Join us as we tell each other our originally written spooky stories around the campfire and then dive into the lore and legends that inspired them. Is it something that goes bump in the night? Is it something menacing lurking past the tree line? Or is it just weird and otherworldly? You'll find it here on Campfire Ashes.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, or right here on the Geekscape Network.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.